Hi everyone, my name is Thomas Kim. Today is September 17th, 2019. This is my third episode about the C++ training standards concept. In this episode, we will learn about variadic concepts and requires clause. Variadic concepts, some of you may get overwhelmed about the word variadic, but don't worry, I will try to explain all the details. In our previous episode, we learned how to define and use concept. If you haven't watched my previous video, please watch this video. Also, in our previous episode, we learned about constrained parameter syntax. Microsoft documentation about C++20 says that this implementation is still undergoing. I mean, those Microsoft engineers are working very hard to implement this C++ concept feature. So some of the features specified in this C++ working paper is not yet working. I mean, some of the features listed in this working draft does not work with the current version of Microsoft Visual C++. But when the official release build, probably all the features listed in this documentation will be implemented in C++. Also note that type list and the functions for type list plays very important role for future C++ programming. But sadly, those type list functions are not implemented and not included in C++ standard. So I created extension Talk Play Fun website and created complete type list functions. If you want to know how I implemented C++ library extensions, then you can watch this series of videos. Also, I am planning to build CPP Talk Play Fun.com, this website. This is just for C++ programming, but this site is still under development. So in some future, when I complete this website, then I will remind you once again. Then you can gather more information about latest C++ development. Without further ado, let's get started. Start Visual Studio 2019, go to File, New, Project, then select Console Application, click Next. Solution name will be 03, Variadic Concepts, and requires clause, solution. Then project name will be Variadic Concepts requires clause. Then click Create. Right click the project property. Make sure all configuration, all platforms selected. Then C++ General, Edit. Click this button, $CPP extension dir. Then this path should be resolved like this. Click OK. In the language, C++ language standard, preview feature blah blah blah. Click Apply. OK. I will delete this part and include Talk Play Fun, output HPP, namespace, types, Talk Play Fun, types, Talk Play Fun, stream, auto, ender, Talk Play Fun, ender. Before we talk about variadic concepts, we will talk about common type. In C++, type trace common type is defined, but that does not work. Okay, I will create a function test common type using common t1 std common type t int double long. Now what will be the common type? We can display the type like this: string com t1 talk, play, fun, get type name, command T, and there. So it returns command type of int double long. Don't forget semicolon here. Now we call this function copy and paste it here, Ctrl F5. So the command type of int double long is double. It seems to be working, but there is one drawback. I will copy this part once again. I pasted it here. Now I change it to type 2, constant character pointer. Now type T2, 2. Now Ctrl F5. It does not compile. It does not work because it does not have a command type. This is constant character pointer. It does not have a command type. So I will disable this part. I modified like this. Now I copy the same function and command type test talk, play, fun, command type. Okay, then we change it to like this, types, then command type T. Now I change it like this. Also here, instead of std, this is C++ standard, I will modify it types like this. I modified. We call this function, I say test types command type. Now I copy this function and paste it here. I disable it. Now let's work. Ctrl F5. So it works perfectly. In this case, it has command type int double long. Command type is double, so it works. In this case, int double long constant character point, it does not have a command type in case of T2. So my function returns no type T. Okay, this is no type T. And it builds and works. Another point you have to remember is something like this. Now, string command type exists. Then I copy this function. I copy and paste like this, and it should be changed like this, V. Now I copy this part once again. In this case, I copy the text, I pasted it here. I say command type 1 exists, command type 2 exists. In this case, command type does not exist, so it should return false. In this case, command type exists, so it returns true. Now Ctrl F5. So in this case, command type exists, command type 1, so it returns true. In this case, command type does not exist, so it returns false. Now that we understand how to test if command type exists, let's create a variadic concept that can test command type. Template, type name, types, concept, command type exists, types, command type B, types. So we created a variadic concept. We created a variadic concept, command type exists. This is variadic template parameter. Now we will use this function like this, void test concept command type exists. Now I define a type list like this using type list, types, type list, int double long. I say type list 1, type list 2, and I will put character pointer. We define the two type lists if context pair common type exists, I have to copy like this. Copy, paste. String type list 1 does have a common type, and there else string type list 1 does not have a common type, and there does have a common type, like this. Please note that we are using this variadic concept. Don't forget semicolon here. Don't forget semicolon here. Now I will copy it once again. Copy, paste. Now I will put character here, character pointer. Then it should be 2. Now we call this function, paste it here, disable it. So this is our new function. We are using constraints as an argument of if context pair. Ctrl F5. So in this case, int double long does have a common type. So this part of message is displayed. In this case, character int double long does not have a common type. So this variadic concept works perfectly. Okay, this is variadic concept. Now here, template common type exists types. We are using this variadic concepts here. Now return value is auto, summation. This is called constrained parameter syntax. Types args. Now here we use fold expression. Operator plus args. This is fold expression. We are using variadic concept. This syntax is called constrained parameter syntax because parameter is constrained using variadic concept. Now we test this function like this. Void test summation constrained parameter syntax. Now stream, we call this function 1. This is integral type. 2.f, this is float. 3.0, this is double. Sum, I will simply do like this. Now I copy this function, pasted it here. Now Ctrl F5. The result is 6. It seems to be working, but it doesn't. I will show you why it does not work. Now I will copy this part. I pasted it here. I will say 1, 2. Now here I provide a string. So 1, 2.0f, 3.0, and this is constant character string. These do not have a common type. So this function should fail. Now let's run it again. Ctrl F5. Failed, but it failed in the wrong place. It has long list of error message, and the first error comes from here. So this is bug. Now I will disable it. I will talk more about this shortly. So this failed. this is constrained parameter syntax. I will copy this part and I paste it here again. We use type name. We fixed it like this. Okay. Now here requires common type exists types. Now we are using this syntax and I will change the function name. This is called requires clause syntax because this is called requires clause. Requires clause. Okay. Now we call this function. I will copy this. I copied and pasted it here. I will change the function name. I will copy this and I will paste it here. We are now calling this function. I copy, paste. Also, now I will copy this function and paste it. Why is squiggle? Okay, and disable it. So we are calling this function. This function calls this function. Now if we run it, Ctrl F5, the result is 6. Now I disable this part and disable this. Now enable it. Please note that we are calling this function with a string. Now Ctrl F5. Say it still failed because it does not have a common type. The difference is here. If I click this line, it gives correct place of the error. Okay. Now here I will disable it and I will enable this part. We are calling this syntax and re-enable it and re-enabled. Now we are calling this function. Scroll down in function main. I disable it and re-enable it. Ctrl F5. No. It has long list. Okay. So it's not working. If I click it, this function is returned. Actually, the error comes from this line, not here. It should be disappeared. So this syntax does not work in case of variadic concept. Syntax does not work in case of variadic concept. I hope you understand what it means, why it does not work. This is some problem in Microsoft implementation. I believe they will fix it. In case of this is called requires clause syntax. Works with variadic concept properly. So this works, but this does not work. This is error. The error is not my problem. The error is Microsoft implementation. I checked this documentation here. In this documentation, page 18, I found the syntax here. They should work properly, but as of today, Microsoft implementation has some flaws, some bugs. Now I will give you another syntax. This is require clause syntax. Now I will copy this part. I copied and pasted it here. Now trailing required clause syntax. Now this time we cut and paste it here. This is trailing requires clause syntax. Now I will change trailing requires close syntax, and I will copy this function, paste, and summation trailing requires close syntax. Now I will enable it, and we are calling this function. I copy, paste, and I copy this function name, copy, and paste. I disable it. Now we are calling this function from function main. Then in this function, we are calling this function. This is called trailing requires close syntax. Now press Ctrl F5. I think I made a syntax error. No, it is causing the problem. So I will disable it, and I will re-enable it. Ctrl F5. So it's working correctly. I will copy this part and paste it here, and I will disable this part and re-enable it. So we are calling this function here. Now Ctrl F5. So we have error message. If we click the first error, then it locates the correct place, causing the error. Right click, add new item, CPP, add, right click, properties, general, do not participate in build. Click apply, click OK. I will copy all and paste it. Now I will recap what we learned in this episode. In this episode, step 1, we created variadic concept, common type exists. And step 2, this is called constrained-parameter syntax using variadic concept. And we created another function. Step 3, we created require close syntax. And I will delete this part. Step 4, we used trailing require close syntax. Please compare 3 syntax. This is called constrained parameter syntax. This is called require close syntax. This is called trailing requires close syntax. You should know all 3 syntax. Also, in case of variadic concept, constrained parameter syntax does not work in Microsoft compiler as of today. In future, Microsoft will fix this bug. I hope so. You can double-click this link and download the complete source code of this episode. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.